97.5, the Fanatic, Philadelphia.
Monday, 97.5, the Fanatic, NBC Sports Philadelphia. Best show ever, 610-632-0975. I hope all the mothers had a good Mother's Day. All right, let's get right to the word of the day. The word of the day today is process. The process died yesterday. The process died yesterday. You know, there was a song about it one time. We have a clip from the song. Go ahead, Jim, play it.
The day the process died.
It died. The process died, and the Sixers didn't even put up a fight. Joel Embiid stunk, was terrible. James Harden stunk, was terrible. Doc Rivers did his normal Doc Rivers thing when his team's up 3-2. You know, he pushes all the right buttons to make his team worse than they were before. They lose. The process is over. The process died. The process was a failure. And everybody involved in it is a failure too. From Hinkie all the way through Joel Embiid, failures, all of them. The worst Game 7 loss in Sixers history. And they've ruined a Mother's Day with Kawhi. They ruined Father's Day, and now they ruin another Mother's Day. I hope everyone went to brunch, because if you tried to go to dinner, you know you weren't very nice to your mom. If your mom was a sports fan, she was depressed at dinner. I hope everybody did brunch. The Sixers, the process, whatever.
Tatum wasn't going to be denied, and you watched him out there drop 50 on you, and you did nothing about it. Even when he struggled in this series, the way he carries himself, it doesn't matter if he misses 8 shots in a row. He's going to hit that 9th shot in his mind. But James Harden doesn't feel that way. I don't know if Joel Embiid feels that way. You don't have someone in crunch time that can actually rise to the occasion. Instead, they crumble again. They crumbled in Game 6, and it just snowballed right into Game 7. And I heard Tobias Harris say some comments after the game, and it seems like he's saying the same thing that we heard 5 years ago. Well, they're not mentally tough enough. Well, what the hell? We've changed everything. We bring in P.J. Tucker. You make a coaching change in Doc Rivers. All these new pieces. You move Ben Simmons out of town. You bring in James Harden. And there's still mental toughness issues. I can't believe they looked that pathetic out there. We can't even rely on Joel. And when Jalen Hurts played on the biggest stage and they lost, it sucked. But I feel good about Jalen Hurts, who balled out on the biggest stage. Now I'm questioning who I thought was the most important player in this franchise. I have no idea who he is, and it's so upsetting.
No, you know.
Maybe I do.
Who he was yesterday, that's who he is.
Well, that's a problem then, Ty. It's a problem.
Body language. Go back to Game 6. Late in Game 6, third quarter, early fourth quarter, Sixers body language going in reverse. I mean, do you think that they had the thought process that this is an opportunity that if we take these guys down, we're probably going to the championship? Do you think that was in the back of their minds? Because I'll tell you right now, they didn't play with that kind of energy. Joel Embiid did not play with that type of energy in Game 7. Neither did Harden. Without those two guys, they were going nowhere. They showed up with nothing. They brought nothing to the table in a Game 7. A Game 7, like Hunter just said, that's where you expect your shooting star to be exactly that. Your shooting star fizzled out and crashed to earth is what happened in Game 7 up in Boston. I thought that was a pitiful display. Whether or not that's Doc Rivers' issue, I'm not really sure. But that team should not have looked as beaten as they were early in that ball game. I'm sorry. I thought their body language said it all.
So I was much more concerned about the basketball. I never look at body language ever. I look at bad basketball play. I don't care if he was skipping up and down the court. He was staking. I don't care. I have to completely disagree about the body language. It was the basketball language. My basketball language says you don't score 10 points in the third quarter. I don't care how you look doing it. I care that they scored 10 damn points in the whole damn third quarter as the other team pulls away when you had a lead not that long ago. In the second quarter, they had a 9-point lead. They scored 10 total points in the third quarter. The basketball was the problem. The basketball, once again, was the problem. I don't care about what you look like. I don't care what you sound like. I care about what you do. And what they did was lose again. And that's it. Anybody can say whatever they want. Now, they have to be smart about it, but they can say whatever they want today. Today's a day for the people. You guys have been put through the ringer time after time after time after time. Way more than City Lauper ever intended. And then you got to deal with this? Now, Jen, how are you feeling today?
I'm gutted, completely gutted, not to mention heartbroken, not to mention embarrassed, and angry. I'm angry. Joel Embiid did not show up. He let the city down. And my best friend, Joel Embiid, let the city down.
Yeah,
24 points. 24 points between James Harden and Joel Embiid yesterday. That's not even half of what Jayson Tatum did on his own.
Yeah, Tatum.
That's unacceptable.
Tatum sets a record, 51 points, most ever in a Game 7.
He's 25 years old, by the way. And something I stress all the time in this league is it's a grown man's league. So when Joel's 24, 25, 26, and he's losing in the postseason, I think that would then project into him growing and then him learning by 29 how to do this.
Yeah.
Like he has enough postseason basketball under his belt. Seeing Kawhi Leonard firsthand, seeing it right in his face, I would think that snowballs into him learning how to do it when it matters most. And then here's a 25-year-old showing him up and teaching him the ways. At 29, Joel's got to realize how to do it by now.
That's only, you're making a wild assumption that he has the ability to do it at all.
I thought he did.
No. If you don't learn
You thought he
something,
did. He hasn't done it, though.
You can't learn something that you can't do. You can't learn something that you can't do. That's the deal. You can't learn it. It's very easy. You think being around Bruce Lee would teach you karate? No, you got to know how to do it your damn self. Being around it is not enough. That's why I always think that's cute, that oversimplification. Oh, yeah, you get a guy around and you copy him. Okay, I tell you what. Half the time you got somebody's going to call it. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of good callers today. I bet you they're not all going to be good. Now imagine if one of them sat right there to the right of me. Sat there for 3 years watching people do shows. You open the mic for that fool, he won't have a chance to get through one segment, let alone a show. Embiid can't learn it because he can't do it. He can't do it. So he can't learn it. He's not capable of doing it. If he was capable of doing it, he would have done it. This series was lost in the fourth quarter of Game 6. Winning Game 7 in Boston was always going to be a challenge. But you know the best way to avoid a challenge is to just quit the third quarter. Then you don't have to worry about the challenge. That's why, after the game, you think about it, none of the players were that upset. Why? Because they knew what was going to happen. You look into the eyes of those dudes and you look at them play, man, these aren't guys that are capable of actually doing it on the highest level. They're not capable. Tatum is capable of doing it on the highest level. Now, he had good enough teammates to get through having a lot of bad games, so they were able to carry him until he could carry them in the fourth quarter of Game 6 and then in Game 7. From the first 4 games and 3 quarters, he stunk. And he has good teammates. And maybe the Celtics were the better team. Maybe they were. Maybe they were. In fact, they probably were. They probably will now win the whole thing. The Celtics probably now will win the title, if that does anything for you. But what about what your people did? Now, it'd be top of the list. James Harden, I don't know what the hell exactly that's supposed to be. The whole point of the guard is supposed to make it easier for the big. Now, the big stunk. But what exactly was that basketball performance of Harden like? What did we see from him?
He was a joke, and even from the early stages, you could just tell he was lost. This team as a whole, he's throwing the ball out of bounds. How about the half-court violation? Are they aware that you're not allowed to go backwards across half court? This is what we're watching in Game 7 to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. He's a mess, and you could have looked at all his games previously and known that a Game 7 was going to pop up like this, but I was holding faith that they'd figure it out because they won 3 games to that point to put them in a position to be tied with the coin flip game.
He didn't want to shoot early on either.
It was a disaster.
You get within 10 feet of the basket. Take a shot when you're wide open. As a matter of fact, beginning of the game, he had 2 open shots, passed out on both of them right away, and then he was forced to bomb up a 3 where she laid up a brick right after.
Too inconsistent for that position. That position is so important to get everybody established in an offense. He goes from 45 points to 9 points to 6 points. How are you supposed to run anything?
You can't. Now, I got some fool emailing me, and I'm not acknowledging a lot of foolish emails, so I'm putting this one out early to try to avoid people getting on my damn nerves. In case you can't tell, I'm not exactly in the best of moods today. I'm sure many of you have the same feeling today. Jen, are you in the best of moods today?
No.
How about you, Ricky?
Not really.
Hunter, you in a good mood today?
Hell
I know
no.
Booty's not. We're in pain today. The only thing I learned about is Doc Rivers, Joel Embiid, and James Harden. And Tobias, too. Like Tobias, real quick. Slow with the mental toughness after your 2 points in Game 6. Shut up. What I need you to do is shut up. All right? That's what I need you to do. Okay? You had your little cute little 19 when it didn't matter. How about the 2 you had in Game 6 when it did matter? Now time to start our Twitter poll with Jen Scordo. Hello, Jen.
Hello there. What do you want to see happen first for the Sixers?
First, because there could be a lot of things that happen.
Right, first. What do you want to happen first? Fire Doc Rivers, fire Daryl Morey, let James Harden walk, or trade Joel Embiid? Our early votes have Morey sticking around. He's only at 6% right now. 11% trade Joel Embiid, 22% want to see James Harden walk, and 62% want Doc Rivers gone.
Now, no, we didn't talk a lot about Doc Rivers in that segment, but how do you bring him back? You just had the worst Game 7 loss in your franchise history. How do you? I'm not telling anybody to lose income, to get fired, etc. What's your rationale to bringing him back? Because you can say this. Embiid was the biggest culprit, followed by Harden. No one really played well in the game. But is it the part of the coach's job to get the most out of play?
100%.
That's the job of the coach.
It's 100% Doc Rivers' job to get these guys everything he can out of these guys, especially in a series against the Celtics that goes 6-7 games. You better be ready to play every single moment.
And Embiid, we all know, is capable of playing better basketball than he did in Game 7. What we're saying is we've seen it with our own eyes, him play better. Now, it's his damn fault. But if you can't trade him and get value, and the odds are on the list, the thing that would be the hardest to do well would be trade Embiid. You can find another president if you wanted to who's good at running a team if you chose. You can find another competent coach, and you can damn sure find a point guard less erratic than James Harden. Those 3 things are, I'm not saying easy, but very doable. The Embiid trade part's the hardest part to do because if you get the trade wrong,
I'll tell you where we are.
The new process.
We're exactly where we were before we started the process, which is stuck maybe in that 8th seed with Iguodala.
if you get the trade wrong.
If you get it wrong.
Right. At least now you know where you are. You're a 3 seed. You feel like you got a shot. They did get to 7 games. I'm trying to just state facts. The 7th game was disgusting. So the first thing, like what I mean is like they got up 3-2. That was Doc too. You fool, like that was him. After that, what exactly did he do to prove, yeah, you got to bring that guy back?
Nothing. He did absolutely nothing. And if you're going to kind of clean this up a little bit, the head coach leaving makes the most sense for me. If you're going to let James Harden do his thing and you're going to have to try and create a whole new identity and we'll see what happens with Joel Embiid, keeping the coach would do nothing for me. He has to be a part of that if you're trying to get this new sense of love.
But it also comes down to, I guess if you're ownership, you're saying, did we have the players in place for Doc Rivers? I think the answer is yes.
The tough part, see what
I mean? You don't know which side to go on there.
But this is where Morey has to be involved because on paper, the Celtics were the better team.
Deeper team, for sure.
But the gap in Game 7 was not the gap of the talent. They're not 30 points better.
No.
They were probably at least 1 point better, and that's all that matters. Roster-wise, the Celtics overall, we've been saying it all, had more players, and the Sixers needed their players to go above and beyond, and those guys did the complete opposite.
And that would point to Morey.
That points to Morey, right.
See, there's a lot of finger pointing that could go around here.
It all has to. It starts with Embiid yesterday. It starts with him. But unfortunately for the Sixers, he's not the only issue.
Let's look at Game 6 real quick. Because in Game 6, Jayson Tatum sucked for a long period of time. Here comes the fourth quarter, but other players kept them in range until Tatum was able to do his thing. In Game 7, P.J. Tucker comes out and makes these threes. Tobias had a couple points. DeAnthony Melton made a couple plays. Like, your teammates put you in a position to hold on for dear life. Joel, we need you in the second half. And you score 10 points in the third quarter.
10 points. That was pretty. What was it, almost 5 minutes without a basket?
Yeah, it was like half a quarter where they didn't score.
Unreal.
The difference is, though, the players we're talking about created those shots for P.J. Tucker. When Tatum was down, those guys are able to create for themselves. Brown creates for himself. Smart was able to create for himself.
Everything here is created because of Embiid.
So that's the thing. P.J. Tucker was a beneficiary of space. It wasn't like Tucker was bringing it up.
Right.
Banging a three going, come on, guys, get on my back. He was like, hey, I'm over here. I'm open. This time I'm going to make them. So that's the difference. The Sixers had less guys that can go get their own on their own. But, yeah, it's a complete failure. The whole process was a failure. All of it was a failure. A complete failure.
Even in years past, we could at least look at maybe what this can lead into. Now we're in do you blow it up mode. Before it was let's see if they grow, let's see what Embiid does. We are now questioning the big man. And I think it's deserved to question the big man, but it hasn't felt this low before because we always had optimism that Joel can now bring us somewhere. Now we're questioning if he even has the ability to. And yesterday maybe showed that he can't.
I got to ask you guys, what do you take from Doc saying after the game that Embiid wasn't the same since that knee injury? What do you take from that?
Nothing. I think that's
it's like an excuse type thing?
I don't think it's an excuse, but I don't think Doc Rivers is going to start throwing his team under the bus, and that's the most friendly way he could put the scenario
that he didn't play well, Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you could do. And unfortunately, I mean, there is still a 1% chance that that's true. It's 99% that he can't be the guy, or he doesn't know how to be the guy yet. There is a 1% chance that your worst day comes in your worst moment. I mean, that does happen sometimes.
He doesn't know how to be that guy yet. If he was 25, maybe I can get behind it. He's almost 30 now.
That's why the 1% would be it just happened to be a terrible game at the very worst time ever. Kind of like Klay Thompson's terrible game against the Lakers.
That's what you hope if you bring him back. You hope that was just a bad time.
That's the 1%.
But Klay, you look at his history, Klay's done it a billion times.
Right. Well, how it goes is it happens when it happens. Or it never happens. We don't get to pick the time. I'm just saying the odds are, I said 99%.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, I can't get much more
over the 1%
than
right
99%. I'm just saying that when someone has MVP talent, usually, historically, they figure it out.
Jokic.
Well, he hasn't won anything yet either.
But he moved his team on.
Thanks, Ricky.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, well.
Just trying to drive the bus.
Yeah, put the dagger in my heart and spin it, please.
I mean, his team is still playing. Now, he only has to play offense, but
that's true.
His team is still playing.
They attacked Embiid, though.
Yeah, I mean, but at that point, they're attacking him. They attacked him with centers?
No.
That's what I'm saying. Like, now imagine you think LeBron's going to get to go against Jokic that whole series?
Oh, man.
I think LeBron will like that.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not like they attacked him with Horford and Robert Williams. They were attacking him with Tatum and Brown and wing players. You know, where was the primary defenders on some of those?
Getting torched.
Beaten. They were beaten.
Getting torched.
That's what I mean by it's just a full problem.
Do you think they were unprepared by the way the Celtics came out yesterday?
No.
I mean, the Celtics were bombing threes the whole first game 6. All of a sudden, they came out and there were a lot of shots in the paint early on.
No, I think that it was just they weren't good enough to stay in front of their bed.
35-27 in the second quarter before that flagrant foul that changed everything. So they came out okay. They just lost control.
Yeah, I don't think Doc Rivers is most to blame. The issue is, though, can you continue as is with him as the coach?
No, I don't think so.
By not this is 3 straight years now with him doing it.
Maybe a little different philosophy, maybe just a little something different because you can't go in with this same staleness.
Well, I do want to highlight this because after Brett Brown, they said, well, we need a new coach. And then you look at Doc Rivers' resume and you think, well, I don't know how much more there is out there when you just look at what he's done in his career. He is he's just a winning coach. That's what his resume says. So now we're going to another coach. At some point, we can't keep turning this over and it be coach. You have to look within at some point, I'm saying. And that's when it goes back to this is us realizing maybe for the first time, Joel Embiid isn't what we thought he was.
No, that's established. But even still, you can't just go run it back. All right, he's not the guy, so you just run it back with Doc.
No.
You have to hope that somebody else can unlock something at this point, probably. You have to hope that someone else can take him from, because he's not that far off in that. If you look, he's the MVP of the league and an elite defender as well. Is there a coach that exists on earth? And you have to scour the earth. Can you find a coach who can find a way to get more from Embiid? Like, Doc added all that nail action and helped him get MVP. That was all Doc. Is there a coach that can take everything Embiid is, find what Embiid isn't, and find a way to instill that ingredient in him?
And just improve him that much more.
And that much more.
There's 2 names that come to mind that are the hot items right now. It's Nick Nurse. It's Monty Williams.
Monty Williams, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. Monty Williams was here before. Maybe he'll connect with him, but maybe. And Nick Nurse, I don't know. But unfortunately, unless you're trading Embiid, you must scour all of the globe and see if there's somebody that can now unlock the mental part of it. The physical part, he's in shape now. That's not a concern anymore. He played at an MVP level. Is there a coach out there who can help with that?
When are we getting our first Jay Wright call?
No.
Well, somebody will call about it. Buds could be the coach.
Okay.
Buds could be. Look at the mental side that Giannis has. That is partially due to Buds helping him. Maybe now the answer is maybe Embiid gets himself too up in these games. For all we know, he's hyperventilating. We don't know. He's not going to tell us. Maybe he's not able to stay on that even keel the way other players are. Is there a mental component that another coach can come in and provide for Embiid? Because that's the most realistic thing, because I don't think trading him is realistic.
I'm not saying that there's nothing to that part of it. I think you can maybe try to establish something mentally, but I always wonder, do you have it or you don't have it? Is that something that you are born with? You have a certain way of approaching the game emotionally and mentally, and that's who you are? For example, no one's changing Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is who he is. You've tried 3 different coaches, multiple different organizations. That's him. Are we in a predicament where Joel Embiid, this is who he is? If he is, in your hypothetical, someone who gets too riled up and he's too emotional, and that's who he is, can somebody change that?
Absolutely.
Okay, I hope you're right.
If that's the case, that's like Andre Agassi. You get a sports psychologist, and that's something you absolutely can be worked on if the player's willing to work on it. Yeah. Also, Embiid used to not be in shape. Someone said get in shape. He got in shape. Embiid, they said operate from the nail. So he operated from the nail. I don't think he's not coachable.
He's very coachable.
Yeah, I think he's coachable. Ben Simmons has changed 0. So I don't think Embiid Simmons is a good example. I think an example would have to be somebody like Dame Lillard, a player, somebody who's been in the league a long time but hasn't won. Is to me a better example than a loser like Ben Simmons.
Okay, I can get behind that.
Yeah, he's like a life loser, let alone basketball. Like, he's a loser. I think that there's more of a chance that there is, if it be, in addition to everything he does with Drew Hanlon or whatever, digs into the mental part of it. I believe there's a higher chance of that happening than getting a good return in a trade.
I agree. I co-sign.
Yeah, I think there's a better chance of Embiid figuring something's mentally not right. Him finding that and fixing it, to me, has a better chance of happening than you trading him and getting a return that then, boom, leads to a title.
No, that's a great point. I want to look around the league and see how many times the team traded someone who's as good as Joel Embiid and then got something back that you really were able to hold your hat on. Because I bet
rarely
you,
happens.
exactly,
Rarely,
you get screwed more than you actually find something solid in a deal.
Well, you can look at just in Philadelphia, and you can look at the
Barkley?
Iverson trade, the Barkley trade, and the Moses Malone trade. Look at those three trades, and then tell me. So what are the odds that Embiid can find the right sports psychologist that gets him in the right mindset, or you trade him and come back next year a better roster? To me, it's about the work Embiid then does, and then that coach may be able to help that, and Doc has been unable.
Any of those three names that were mentioned for head coach, I think, would be solid for me.
I think Buds would be the best in that particular way.
Okay.
Of digging into the mental part of it.
I also think a big part of that is the want to change. I believe Joel Embiid has the want to be better. Ben Simmons never wanted to be anything different than a video game playing.
Well, he's teachable, coachable.
Loner.
I mean, he's only been playing since he was 16, so obviously he's teachable and coachable.
It'll be interesting though, because this is the first time he's reached this level of criticism on the entire city. I think feels a certain type of way about him now, where before there were a lot of defenders, and even the defenders like ourselves are now starting to go to the other side. So it'll be the first time in his career in this city that it's this heavy.
Yeah, does
of a
this end up
reaction.
being the grass isn't always greener? It could end up being that if you get rid of them and you get garbage back, and you're like, why did they do this?
I don't think I'm at the point where I want him out of town. I'm just frustrated.
I don't want them out of town,
No.
they definitely need a different snapshot of who they are.
I just don't know. I don't know another solution. If someone has a better solution, I'm all ears. Even if it includes trading Joel, nobody's safe. I'm just trying to think what could really happen for the team to come back, because I'm not ready to go into another process. So I got to try to win again next year. And I'm more able to do that with Embiid coming back different mentally. And it's going to have to come from him, because clearly it's mental. Like, I don't know what's going through his head in those moments versus what went through Jordan's head and Kobe's head and Jimmy Butler's head. I don't know what goes through his head. But whatever it is, usually that's changeable with work if you're really, really talented. Because sometimes you do stuff by accident because you're talented.
That does happen.
Let's say they do this next year, because they clearly love the two-man game between Harden and Embiid.
Yeah, but I don't think Harden's back.
Exactly. So what if they committed, a new coach comes in, and they commit to a Maxey Embiid two-man game? You give Maxey the ball in his hands, let him operate, let him cook, and in your starting rotation, the 3 out of the 5 that I could see right now that's on this roster is you got your 1 and your 5 in Maxey and Embiid, PJ Tucker's your 4, and you figure out a shooting guard and a small forward, and that's what you're running with from the team that we had this year, next year. 3 of the starters are the same, and it's those 3 guys.
Yeah, that could make sense. And then also what you end up doing is you put more playmaking responsibility on Embiid to force him to continue to prove in that area. So then in the playoffs, the ball has to be in his hands more, because it has to in order to facilitate the offense. By having the ball in Harden's hands so much, like before they traded for Harden last year, the ball had to be in Embiid's hands an awful lot, because Maxey's not a point guard and he was only 21 at the time. Now you had the 22-year-old Maxey with Harden and Embiid. The putting the ball maybe back in his hands forces him to take on certain responsibility that you can't run from. So perhaps that's part of the deal as well. Either way, that's more realistic than, poof, we just made a perfect trade. I
actually hope they keep. Just keep them, build something around him if you can.
Morey's been around a long time, and I'm working right now in the mindset of Morey's going to be here. I think you just look at the raw, natural skill of what Embiid is, and he sees a lot of trades around this league. I don't think he makes the knee-jerk reaction to get that skill level out of town, because he's aware that you don't bring in something equivalent. You normally get burned. So I can't imagine him making a deal.
You still would be trading away the MVP.
Unless the deal is that massive that you have to say yes. I don't see that being the case, though. That's if Morey's the one in power. Do they get rid of Daryl Morey?
There's so many factors.
Can't rule it out.
There's a lot that's going to happen next 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
I'd be okay if Morey stays, though.
I mean, yeah.
But if he gets fired, I'm not complaining. I think he does a lot. I think he knows the league well enough where I'm willing to allow him to operate this thing, personally.
Yeah. All right. Back to the fold. Ziggy in Germantown. You're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's up, Ziggy?
Yes. Good evening, guys.
Ziggy, please. Good talk. Oh, sorry.
Sometimes we try to look for leadership in people who are not leaders. And I feel like for the past couple of years, the 76ers have been doing that. Now, if we look at the Eagles, our quarterback is a natural-born leader, and that's why we have so much success, along with other things, with the Eagles. Now, I don't think trading away Joel Embiid is the answer. Joel Embiid is one of the, if not the greatest player, the best player in the league right now, not the greatest, but one of the best players in the league right now. And we need talent and great players on our team. What the Sixers are lacking is a leadership. In the playoffs get harder as it goes on. When you finish one round, it gets harder in the next round. So what happens with teams and in the playoffs, you need leaders in times like this. And that's why the Grizzlies are not in the season anymore, because they have great players, but there's no leadership. And that's what we're seeing with the Sixers. So even with the Allen Iverson era, Allen Iverson was the best player on the team, but he wasn't the leader, So Joel Embiid is great. James Harden is great, but the team lack leadership.
Yeah,
So,
it makes sense, Ziggy. Thanks for the call. You made it pretty clear. I can't argue that because P.J. Tucker's not a good enough player to be a leader. You
need
know
to
that
be the star to be the leader.
You can't
the
be
true
the leader. That's what I'm saying. Like a middle reliever can't lead a team.
A reliever can't lead a team, period. A starting pitcher cannot be the leader of the team.
Yeah, like P.J. Tucker can do all that stuff, but he can't be the leader. In a perfect world, your best player is the leader. It doesn't have to be your best player, but it's got to be a damn important player to be the leader.
Be like a fourth line in hockey. You have your captain on the fourth line.
Like you can't have that. So, yeah. And that leadership, clearly, Embiid was a better leader in that he made it clear, and Maxey talked about it. It was about winning and all that kind of stuff. He said the right things. But in the games, he didn't do the right things. And that's the thing about the leader, and the leader has to be there every day. The leader has to be there all the time, every day, all around. That's what a leader. The leader has to be consistent. You kind of got to know what you're getting from the leader. And for most of the year, it looked great. But at the end, you didn't know what you were getting from your leader. I'm tired. Booney's pointed out, I'm tired of these hinky people. These hinky people back. Oh, you never know what his vision was. His vision was to have Embiid and Noel already on the roster and still draft Okafor. Because you'll trade him later? That's not a vision. That's not a vision. He didn't know how to draft. You draft Porzingis. If he stays overseas, guess what you can do with players that are still overseas? Trade them. But if it's about a basketball fit of having Ben Simmons, who doesn't shoot, down the road, Porzingis, who it didn't work out, but it's about a vision, a 7-footer who can shoot, and then Embiid. That's a basketball team in theory that you think, wow, they're really long, they play different, they'd be hard to cover. That would be a basketball vision.
Didn't Porzingis say he wanted nothing to do with us?
Yeah.
At the draft?
Yeah. Well, that's what the rumor was. But what was he going to do, stay overseas forever? Stay overseas forever. One day I'll trade your rights, just like they were going to trade the rights to Okafor. Remember, they already had Embiid and Noel, and they draft another center. And people go, no, that's genius GMing.
I can't believe we're having this conversation.
People are still doing this.
I know they are. And I can't believe it. I can't change the past. I don't give a damn about Sam Hinkie right now. It's the last thing on my mind. I don't know who Joel Embiid is. Or, what Ty's saying is, we found out who Joel Embiid is, and we found out he's not good enough. I don't give a damn about Sam Hinkie. I don't care what he thought he could do. Here's reality. We're in a jam. We're in a pickle right now as a franchise, and we don't know where the future goes from here. That's where my head's at. I don't give one damn about Sam Hinkie today. And if that's where your brain's at.
We'll never know where
come
his
on,
vision would
man.
have taken us.
Come on. Where? Where would the vision take us?
Somewhere to his mother's basement.
Yeah, we'd be screwed then, too. I just don't get
He
it.
loved the pandemic because he got to just stay in the house. Troy on the cells. We go back to the Foles Raw 97.5 The Fanatic.
Yes. Good afternoon, gang. I would ask you how you're doing, but I kind of know what that answer probably is. I just want to say just a little background. I've been a Sixers fan. I'm in my mid-50s. I've been a Sixers fan since I was 10 years old. My godmother took me to the Spectrum. Fell in love with the Sixers. And I said, this is my team. It's my team for life. I'm going to ride with them no matter what. But I'm in a crisis right now because I feel like if the Sixers were a house, you would tear that house down to the foundation, down to the studs, and start all over again.
No, you wouldn't.
I'm saying this is how I feel.
If you have an MVP player,
yes,
and you have a young player in Maxey, there are worse
Those
places
are
to
assets.
start from. Yeah, now it's not a total teardown.
Those are assets.
This is something where it needs a new kitchen.
You may remodel.
And the kitchen's important. But but the bathrooms are nice, like I'm saying, to look at this master bath. Like I'm saying, like it's not a complete teardown. It just needs a kitchen, which is important because you can't do nothing without a kitchen.
But that's how I feel, and you're right. I think if all the players that they have, I know they have to keep PJ because of the contract situation. But I think you got to get rid of Harden. You got to get rid of Tobias if you can with that overblown contract that he's overpaid. You keep Embiid, like you said, try to unlock him somehow. Keep Maxey. He's a great emerging young star. But that bench, we have no guys on the bench with any intestinal fortitude to come in. Just like those guys that came off the bench with the Lakers. They came in and they did what they needed to do. They played their role. We don't have anybody like that. They come out with like a deer in headlights, and they're terrified.
Wait, Troy, you don't enjoy watching George Niang grab Jaylen Brown in the middle of the game from the bench?
No.
Thanks for the call, Troy.
Thanks for bringing that up. I actually forgot about
that. Was the stupidest, stupid thing to do. But it shows you they're not locked in mentally. That's from the coach and from Embiid.